What would you do to save the person you love? It's a question we all hope we never have to answer. But for some, that hypothetical nightmare becomes a brutal reality. In a split second, a perfect day can turn into a life or death struggle, and the instinct to protect your partner takes over. Today, we're exploring the most horrifying stories of couples who died while trying to save each other. Case 1. The frozen plunge. In the heart of the Canadian wilderness, Crescent Falls is a place of raw, untamed beauty. A powerful cascade of water thunders down a series of rocky cliffs, drawing tourists and nature lovers from all over. In July of 2020, Yasvir and Harpreet Deer brought their 3 children here for a family day trip. It was a perfect summer afternoon, the kind of day that creates lasting memories. The family was exploring the area near the falls, taking photos and enjoying the spray from the powerful torrent. But the rocks near the water's edge are notoriously slick, covered in a thin, treacherous layer of moss and moisture. And in a single, horrifying instant, their idyllic outing turned into a full-blown nightmare. One of their children, playing near the water, slipped on the wet rocks and fell into the turbulent, freezing pool at the base of the falls. Without a second's hesitation, one of the parents, it's still unclear which one went in first, jumped in after the child. But the water at the base of a powerful waterfall is a death trap. It's a churning, violent hydraulic, a recirculating current that can pull a person under and hold them there with immense force. The parent was immediately caught in the same current, struggling to stay afloat in the icy water. Seeing their partner and child being pulled under, the other parent made the same fateful decision. They jumped in as well, a desperate, instinctive act of love. It was a chain reaction of terror and sacrifice, a 3-person tragedy unfolding in a matter of seconds. Bystanders on the shore watched in horror, helpless against the overwhelming power of the water. All 3 were sucked into the hydraulic, disappearing beneath the churning surface. Rescue teams arrived to a scene of chaos and heartbreak. They searched the deep, cold pools downstream and eventually recovered the bodies, but it was far too late. A perfect family outing had ended in a triple drowning. For the Deer family, a single slip, followed by 2 acts of selfless, desperate love, had wiped out a generation. Case 2. The Desert March. This next case is a slow, agonizing descent into hell. In August of 2021, Jonathan Garish, his wife Ellen Chung, their 1-year-old daughter Miju, and their family dog, Oski, set out for what they thought would be a pleasant day hike in a remote part of the Sierra National Forest in California. They were an experienced, outdoorsy couple, but they were new to this particular trail, and they made a series of fatal miscalculations. They chose to hike on a day when temperatures in the canyon were forecast to soar to a blistering 109 degrees Fahrenheit, or 42 degrees Celsius, and they brought only a fraction of the water they would need, a single 85-ounce container for 2 adults, a baby, and a dog, on a long, strenuous hike in extreme heat. The trail they chose, known as the Savage Lundy Trail, is notoriously difficult. It descends steeply into a river canyon and then climbs back out, with a brutally steep, shadeless section that offers no relief from the sun. Investigators believe their baby, Miju, was the first to show signs of heat distress. What followed was a desperate, frantic death march up the exposed mountainside. Fueled by adrenaline and parental terror, Jonathan and Ellen pushed themselves far past their physical limits, trying to get their baby to safety. Their water supply was quickly exhausted. They were literally cooking from the inside out, their bodies shutting down from hyperthermia and severe dehydration. A day later, search teams found their bodies. They had collapsed on the trail, just 1.6 miles from their car. The family was found in a bizarre, heartbreaking formation. Jonathan was in the driver's seat of their truck. Miju and the dog were right outside. Ellen was found a ways up the hill, apparently having tried to climb even further to get a cell signal. A survival expert who consulted on the case wrote that the couple likely didn't realize the severity of their situation until it was far too late. Once they recognized their peril, he wrote, they perished while trying to save their child and one another. Case 3. The Selfless Wave. From the dry heat of California, we travel to the treacherous coast of Western Australia for a story of pure, selfless sacrifice. In December of 2024, a couple, identified as Dr. Swapan and Ms. Ahmed, were enjoying a day at a remote beach with their 2 daughters. The beach was picturesque, a classic Australian scene of white sand and turquoise water. But like many beautiful beaches, it hid a deadly secret. Powerful, unpredictable rip currents that can appear without warning and drag swimmers out to sea. Their daughters, enjoying the cool water on a hot day, went for a swim. They were almost immediately caught in a rip, the powerful current pulling them away from the shore and into the deep, churning water. Without a moment's hesitation, both parents rushed into the violent surf to save them. It was a primal, instinctive act of parental love, a decision made in a split second, with no thought for their own safety. Another man who was with the family also went in to help. In the chaos that followed, a frantic struggle against the power of the ocean, the daughters and the other man were eventually brought back to shore, exhausted but alive. But Dr. Swapan and Miss Ahmed disappeared beneath the waves. Emergency responders were called to the scene, and they pulled the couple from the water. They performed CPR on the sand for a long time, desperately trying to bring them back. But it was too late. They had drowned, exhausted by the powerful current as they fought to keep their children afloat. Life-saving authorities later used the tragedy to issue a stark warning. Never enter the water to save someone unless you are trained and equipped. You're more likely to become a second victim than a rescuer. But for these parents, there was no choice. They saw their children in peril and did what any loving parent would do. They gave their lives for their children, a final, tragic act of love in the face of an unforgiving ocean. Case 4. The Sinking Lesson. Our next story begins with something as mundane as a driving lesson, but ends in a scene of cinematic horror. September of 2017, in the city of Christchurch, New Zealand, 31-year-old Sheetal Ram was learning to drive. Her husband, 26-year-old Avneel, was in the passenger seat, giving her instructions. They were a young couple, described by friends and family as devoted to each other, building a life together. They were practicing in a park area near a calm but deep lake. It was a quiet, controlled environment, seemingly the perfect place for a new driver to get some experience behind the wheel. But during the lesson, Sheetal made a fatal error, the kind of simple mistake that new drivers often make. She accidentally hit the accelerator instead of the brake. The car lurched forward, gaining speed, and plunged into the freezing cold water of the lake. The car sank quickly, the water pressure sealing the doors shut and trapping the young couple inside. Witnesses saw them struggling frantically as the water rose around them, the car filling up in a matter of seconds. One brave bystander, seeing the horror unfold, dived into the icy lake and tried to smash a window to free them. He swam to the submerged car and hammered on the glass, but the pressure of the water and the rapidly dropping temperature made the rescue impossible. The glass wouldn't break. By the time police divers arrived, it was too late. Avneel and Sheetal had drowned, trapped together in their sunken car. The coroner later praised the bystander for his incredible bravery, calling his actions selfless and courageous. But it was a futile effort against a ticking clock. It was a freak accident, A simple mistake that turned a driving lesson into a death trap. The couple died together in the dark, cold water, their lives cut short by a single tragic misstep. Case 5. The rogue wave. This next case is a terrifying reminder of the raw, unpredictable power of the ocean. In April of 2025, over the Easter long weekend, a married couple was exploring the rocky coastline of San Remo in the state of Victoria, Australia. They were standing on a rock platform near the water's edge, a popular spot for tourists to take in the dramatic coastal views. But this area is also a known hazard zone, notorious for rogue waves, massive, unexpected swells that can appear out of nowhere and crash over the rocks with incredible force. And then it happened. A massive, unexpected wave, a king wave, formed offshore and came barreling towards the coast. It crashed over the rock platform where the couple was standing, sweeping the woman into the violent, churning sea. Her husband, seeing his wife dragged away by the powerful surge, was then also swept in. Another woman who was with them was also washed into the water, but she was miraculously rescued alive, pulled from the surf by emergency responders. A massive search and rescue operation was launched, with helicopters and boats scouring the treacherous waters for the missing couple. They found the wife's body, but her husband was gone, vanished into the unforgiving sea. He was presumed drowned, another victim of the ocean's brutal, indiscriminate power. Local authorities had repeatedly warned people about the dangers of standing on those rocks, shelves, especially during high surf conditions. But on that holiday weekend, their warnings went unheeded. It was a tragedy that unfolded in seconds, a couple enjoying a scenic walk one moment, and then swallowed by the sea the next. The husband's final moments were likely spent trying to reach his wife, a desperate, futile struggle against an unbeatable foe. Case 6. The final breath. For many, a snorkeling trip in Hawaii is the definition of a dream vacation. The warm, clear water, the vibrant coral reefs, the colorful fish. It's an experience that people travel from all over the world to have. But for one couple, that dream turned into a silent, underwater nightmare. In 2025, a married couple in their 50s or 60s were on a commercial snorkeling excursion off the coast of Maui. It was marketed as a safe, relaxed tour, a chance to see the vibrant marine life of Hawaii under the supervision of experienced professionals. They entered the water together, part of a larger group, and began exploring the reef. But at some point during the excursion, one of them got into distress. It's not clear what happened. Perhaps it was panic, fatigue, or a sudden medical issue. But in the open ocean, even a small problem can quickly become a life-threatening emergency. The other partner stayed close, trying to help, trying to keep their head above water. But in the chaos and confusion, with no one from the tour boat apparently noticing their struggle, they both drowned. The crew of the snorkeling boat eventually realized that 2 of their passengers were missing. They began a search and pulled the couple's lifeless bodies from the water. But it was too late. Their deaths led to a wrongful death lawsuit against the tour operator. The family's lawyer argued that the crew had failed to provide adequate supervision, that they hadn't kept a proper head count, and that they didn't respond quickly enough when the couple was in distress. The lawsuit claimed that their deaths were entirely preventable, the result of negligence on the part of the tour company. It was a quiet, tragic end to what was supposed to be a perfect day in paradise. They died side by side, their final breaths taken in the beautiful but deadly waters of Maui, allegedly abandoned by the very people who were supposed to be keeping them safe. Case 7. The Human Shield. Our final story is one of the most powerful and heartbreaking examples of love and sacrifice imaginable. In September of 2017, a young British couple, Andrew and Lucy Foster, were in Yosemite National Park, celebrating their first wedding anniversary. They were experienced climbers, and the trip was a dream come true. They were hiking near the base of the legendary El Capitan, a massive granite monolith that draws climbers from all over the world. Suddenly, without warning, a massive slab of rock, the size of an apartment building, broke away from the cliff face and came thundering down towards them. It was a catastrophic rock slide, a force of nature that no one could have predicted or survived. Another climber who witnessed the event said he saw Andrew do something extraordinary. Instead of running for his own life, away from the falling rock, he ran back towards the rockfall, towards his wife. He threw himself on top of her, becoming a human shield, as tons of granite rained down upon them. Andrew was crushed to death, but his final, selfless act saved Lucy's life. She survived with serious, life-threatening injuries, but she survived. "Andrew saved my life," she later said from her hospital bed. "He dived on top of me as soon as he could see what was going to happen." His family, heartbroken but proud, called him our brave boy and our hero. It was the ultimate act of love, a split-second decision to sacrifice his own life for the person he loved most. In the face of a terrifying, unstoppable force of nature, his only thought was to protect his wife. It's a story of unimaginable tragedy, but also of a love so powerful that it transcended the fear of death itself. These stories are a testament to the incredible power of love and the profound, instinctual need to protect the person we share our life with. But they are also brutal reminders of how fragile life is and how quickly a perfect day can turn into a tragedy. They are stories of heartbreak, but also of a heroism that shines a light in the darkest of places.